Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here again to really break down those complex topics and find, the really insightful bits. Today, we're grabbing our spoons, maybe metaphorically, and diving into paella. It seems simple, maybe, but honestly, it's almost always misunderstood by home cooks.
Oh, definitely. Paella is such a fantastic topic. It's so much more than just, rice with stuff mixed in. People say it's Spain in a pan, and that's actually quite accurate. It's this amazing display of heat control, layering flavors, timing. For chefs, really mastering paella, that's a big deal, a real rite of passage.
And that's exactly our mission for you today. We want to pull out that essential wisdom, the techniques they teach in culinary schools. We're separating the secrets of a truly unforgettable paella from what, let's be honest, often ends up as a kind of nice but, well, textureless rice casserole.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And just to kick things off, let's tease maybe the most shocking rule for many people. If you've ever taken a wooden spoon and stirred your paella rice after adding the broth, well, you might have already doomed its texture right there.
A no stir rule. That's probably the biggest one. But to really get why it's so critical, we actually need to back up a bit. We have to start with the basics, the physics of the dish almost.
Okay, so let's talk hardware first. The pan. It's not just a container, right? The dish is named after the pan, the paella. So why does this have to be so specific? Wide, shallow, flat? Why can't I just use my heavy Dutch oven?
Ah, right. That's the key difference. Using a deep pot, like a Dutch oven, it completely changes how the heat works, the whole cooking dynamic. Paella pans are designed for maximum surface area, minimum depth. You need that rice layer to be incredibly thin.
And if it's too thick, what happens then?
Well, if it's thick, the rice in the middle just starts to steam. It boils, essentially. And we don't want boiling. We're aiming for absorption. That wide, shallow pan, it forces the liquid to evaporate really quickly and evenly across the whole surface. This makes sure all the rice grains cook pretty much identically and they soak up the flavor instead of just stewing in it. It's as much about managing heat as it is about holding the food.
Absorption versus boiling. Got it. That makes a huge difference. So, okay, we've got the right canvas, the pan. Now we need the right paint, which is the rice itself. If I want that perfect kind of dry texture, why not just use basmati or, regular long grain rice?
Ah, okay. This comes down to starch chemistry. It's maybe one of the most important distinctions, actually. You really have to use specific Spanish short grain varieties.
Yeah.
Bamba is the most famous. Calaspara is another good one. Your standard long grain rice, it releases way too much starch from the outside of the grain, amylopectin technically, and it does it really quickly when it cooks, leading to that sticky, almost clumpy exterior.
Which makes it creamy. Exactly what you want for risotto, but the enemy of paella.
Precisely. The rice grains in a good paella, they need to stay proud and separate, is how chefs sometimes describe it. They need to keep a distinct bite. Bamba rice is amazing because its structure lets it absorb nearly 3 times its volume in liquid without shedding that outer starch. So it gets plump with all that flavor, but it stays intact. You avoid that porridgey texture that just kills a paella.
Okay, specialized pan, specialized rice, makes sense. Now let's get to the heart of the flavor. Before any rice even hits the pan, you build the sofrito.
Yes, the sofrito. This is your deep, rich flavor foundation. It's that slow-cooked mix, usually onion, tomato, garlic, maybe some peppers, all gently simmered in good olive oil. In traditional Valencian cooking, they really talk about the sofrito as the soul of the dish.
And the mistake people make here is rushing it, I assume. What does low and slow actually mean, practically?
It means patience. Which, can be tough. You can't just quickly saute this stuff for 5 minutes and call it done. Not at all. You're aiming for this deep, almost jammy caramelization. Depending on how much you're making, it could easily be 20, maybe 30 minutes of really slow cooking. The idea is to cook down all the water from the tomatoes and onions until you're left with this thick, super fragrant paste. It's like a concentrated bomb of sweetness and umami.
Right, because if that sofrito is watery, it just creates this bland steam under the rice, doesn't it? Kind of ruins the potential.
Totally ruins it. You're building the very first layer of taste. Every single grain of that bomba rice is eventually going to soak this up. So once that solid base is there, then you start bringing in the other key aromatics.
Which leads us beautifully to saffron. It gives paella that incredible golden color, but it's also potent and, let's face it, expensive. What's the professional secret to getting the most out of it without, accidentally making the dish bitter?
The secret is unlocking it properly with heat and moisture. We call it blooming. You never, ever just toss the dry threads straight into the pan. You need to either Gently toast the threads in the dry pan for just a few seconds, literally, just to wake them up. Or, the more common way, soak them. Soak the threads in a little bit of warm broth for maybe 10–15 minutes before you add all the liquid to the pan.
So blooming lets those color and flavor compounds fully dissolve into the liquid. Get more bang for your buck, essentially, maximizes that subtle, earthy aroma.
Exactly that. And speaking of liquid, the broth itself, well, that's where so much of the magic is hidden. Whether you're making a seafood paella, a paella mariscos with a rich seafood stock, or the traditional Valencian style with chicken stock, the rule is identical. That broth needs to taste amazing before the rice goes in.
That's such a great practical tip for everyone listening, because I think people often just assume, oh, I bought good quality stock, that's enough. But not here.
No, definitely not. Because that rice is going to absorb almost all of that liquid, the flavor concentration in the broth has to be really high to start with. You absolutely must taste the broth right before you add the rice. And here's the thing. It should taste slightly over-seasoned, almost borderline too salty. If it tastes perfectly seasoned just on its own, the final paella will end up tasting bland once the rice has soaked it all up and distributed that flavor.
Okay, wow, this is fantastic detail. So we have the right pan, the right rice, the deep sofrito, bloom saffron, and a properly concentrated broth. Now we get to the real high-wire act, the technique, the point of no return, you could say, that no-stir rule. Why is stirring paella considered such a culinary sin?
Because everything you've done up to this point, choosing the right rice, building the sofrito, it's all geared towards keeping those rice grains separate and intact. Stirring just instantly undoes all that careful work. It agitates the grains and releases that surface starch that bomba rice is specifically designed to hold on to. You end up creating a sticky, gummy layer, and perhaps more importantly, you completely destroy any chance of creating the most prized part of a paella.
You ruin the structural integrity. But okay, how do chefs actually manage this? How do they stop it sticking or cooking unevenly if they can't touch it? Every single instinct screams, stir it.
Yeah, it does. That's where the trust factor comes in. You spread the rice out evenly, you pour in the broth carefully, and then you leave it alone. Instead of a spoon, professionals use the pan itself. You firmly grab both handles and give it a gentle shake or rotate it slightly over the burner. This helps redistribute the liquid without disturbing the rice structure. It's very much a hands-off approach, relying on faith and precise heat management.
Okay, tell me more about that heat control. Especially for, someone like me cooking on a standard home stove, gas or electric. We don't usually have those giant custom paella burners.
Right. Traditionally, paella is cooked over fire, which naturally gives you multi-zone heat, hotter in the middle, cooler at the edges. In a home kitchen, you try to mimic this. Keep your burner on a steady, solid, medium heat. You want the liquid to be bubbling gently but consistently across the surface. Then, maybe in the last few minutes of cooking, you might slightly increase the heat just to help create that final crucial element.
And another key detail we learned, you must never, ever cover the paella while it's cooking like this.
Never cover it. Covering traps steam. It turns the pan into a steamer, basically, and guarantees a soggy top layer of rice. Paella needs that open air. It needs evaporation to concentrate the flavors and, crucially, to form the ultimate prize, the thing we've been building towards. The socarrat.
Ah, yes, the socarrat, that golden, crunchy crust at the bottom. Everyone talks about this. This is the difference maker, isn't it, between good and great paella?
Oh, absolutely. The socarrat is everything. It's that thin, crispy, beautifully caramelized layer of rice that forms right against the hot bottom of the pan. It gives this incredible smoky, nutty, slightly toasted flavor that is just essential to the authentic experience. Honestly, if you don't get socarrat, arguably you haven't quite made true paella.
Okay, so if I'm forbidden from stirring and I can't really lift the rice to peek underneath, how does a chef actually know they've achieved this magic crust?
They listen. It's all about sound. The final cue that tells you the liquid has evaporated and the socarrat is forming is very specific. You lean in and you listen for a distinct, gentle crackle. Sometimes it's more of a light, rapid, sizzling sound coming from the bottom of the pans. That sound is the rice crisping up against the hot metal. Once you hear that specific sound, you know you're there. You might hold the heat for another minute, maybe 2 max, and then immediately kill the heat.
Wow. It's the sound that signals completion. It really does sound like this delicate dance of timing, heat, and even listening. So once that crackle tells you it's done, What's the absolute final step before you can actually serve it?
The rest. You absolutely have to let it rest. Take the pan straight off the heat and immediately cover it. Not with a lid, but with a clean kitchen towel or even folded newspaper works. Let it sit undisturbed for about 5 to 10 minutes. This allows the residual steam that gets trapped under the towel to gently finish cooking the very top layer of rice. And just as importantly, it helps balance the moisture throughout the entire paella. Makes everything perfect.
And then finally, presentation. After all that precision and care, I'm guessing you don't want to just dump a load of parsley on top.
Oh, please don't. Garnish with serious restraint. Paella is fundamentally rustic, beautiful in its own right. Fight that urge to overdecorate. The visual appeal comes from the vibrant colors, the way the ingredients are nestled in the rice, those visibly crispy edges from the socarrat. All you really need are a few wedges of fresh lemon on the side. Maybe a tiny drizzle of really good Spanish olive oil. That's it. The pan itself, placed in the center of the table, is the presentation.
This whole deep dive really highlights these counterintuitive techniques, doesn't it? The philosophy seems clear. Paella demands patience, incredible precision, and, well, trust. Trust in your heat, your pan, your ingredients.
Exactly. And if you think about it in terms of just general cooking skill, it really shows that often the biggest improvements come from respecting these kinds of non-negotiable fundamental rules. You have to actively fight your instincts sometimes, like the urge to stir. There's a saying among Spanish chefs, if you control the rice, you control the meal. It really boils down to that.
What really stands out to me is how this dish, using fairly simple ingredients like short grain rice in a basic pan, actually requires such sophisticated control. It's like a slow, meticulous celebration happening all in one pan.
It demands complete focus, absolutely. Because the difference between a pretty good paella and a truly great, memorable one often hinges on just one or two of these small, critical techniques, like choosing bomba rice or having the discipline not to stir.
So, now that you, our listener, know these secrets, the power inherent in the pan shape, the crucial chemistry of the right rice, the patience needed for a deep sofrito, blooming the saffron, and that final quiet hunt for the sound of the socarrat, we want to leave you with a final thought. Paella is all about achieving mastery through a hands-off technique. So think about this. What other common beloved dishes, maybe in your own kitchen, actually require you to resist your basic cooking instincts? Dishes where you might need to stop touching the food, stop interfering, to let it reach its absolute perfect state. Something to ponder the next time you instinctively reach for that spoon.